Hey everyone, before we get into today's deep dive, if you could just take a second and hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it really does help us out. Let's just keep doing this.
Okay, so let's get into it. We are traveling back in time for this one, back to 1986, Omaha, Nebraska.
We're talking about Rainbow Rowell's novel from 2012, Eleanor and Park.
And on the surface, it feels like this classic story of two misfits finding each other. They connect over comic books, over mixtapes.
But it is so much heavier than your average high school romance. And I think our mission today is to really unpack that tension. Well, it was a huge critical success. It won a Michael L. Prince honor, which is a big deal in YA. But at the same time, it ignited these huge controversies.
Right, about censorship and about racial representation. It's got a really complicated legacy.
Exactly. And to get why, you have to start with the characters.
Okay, so first you have Eleanor. She's the new girl. She's bullied constantly for her size, for her bright red curly hair, and her family is living in just extreme poverty.
And then there's Park. He's half Korean. He does taekwondo. He's into alternative music like the Smiths. He sort of knows the popular kids, but he really just wants to be invisible.
And their whole relationship is this incredibly slow burn. It literally starts on the school bus in total silence.
He only lets her sit with him to get the other kids to shut up, basically. But that silence eventually turns into him sharing his X-Men comics.
And then the mixtapes. That's the real connection.
Yeah, it's this very quiet, very private world they build, which is such a stark contrast to Eleanor's home life.
Oh, her home life it's basically a horror story.
Yeah.
Her stepfather, Richie, he is just terrifying.
The detail that always sticks out, the one everyone mentions, is the bathroom door.
There is no door. He destroyed it. There's just a curtain.
Yeah. It just completely robs her of any sense of safety or privacy. And the book is filled with these relentless details about their poverty. She doesn't own a toothbrush. She has to patch her clothes.
It makes everything feel so much more desperate. And of course, it all just boils over.
Right. Park gets into a huge fight for her, actually breaks his nose defending her from a bully.
And then Richie finds all of her stuff, her comics, her tapes from Park, and just destroys it all. She has to run.
And Park helps her escape. He drives her to her uncle's house in Minnesota.
The ending, though, it's not the happy ending you might expect.
Not at all. Park confronts Richie later, but he doesn't do anything. He just kicks the ground in front of him. And Eleanor just goes quiet for months.
She doesn't answer any of his letters. And then the book ends with her sending a postcard. Just 3 words on it.
It's so bittersweet. And that emotional power is what John Green was talking about when he said it reminded him of being young and in love with a book.
But that same intensity, all that raw emotion and language, is what got it into trouble.
Right. With the Anoka Hennepin School District, a group of parents challenged it for vile profanity.
They actually counted. They cited 227 instances of coarse language and wanted it banned.
But a committee reviewed it and said, this is realistic for high schoolers. It stayed. But that wasn't the only controversy.
No, and the other one is, I think, much more complicated. And that's the criticism around Park's racial identity.
This is a huge part of the conversation. Critics argued that Rowell, who is a white author, exoticized Park. They pointed to descriptions of his skin as honey, his eyes as almond-shaped.
There's even a line that says almond-flavored eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And the really big one, the comparison Eleanor makes of Park to Ming the Merciless.
Which is a classic, really harmful yellow peril stereotype from the old Flash Gordon serials. It landed very badly.
There was also a lot of debate around his name, right? Park.
Yeah, Park is an incredibly common Korean surname, but it's almost never used as a first name. Rowell explained it was his mother's maiden name, which is a tradition in her own family.
But critics felt that reasoning didn't quite work. They argued that while that might be a white American tradition, it felt inauthentic for a South Korean immigrant mother to do that. It felt disconnected from the cultural reality.
So you have this case where the author's intent to bring Asian representation into YA clashed pretty hard with the execution for a lot of readers.
And speaking of things not quite happening, the movie adaptation has been a whole saga.
A total roller coaster. The rights went from DreamWorks, then back to Rowell, then in 2020, Plan B was set to produce it.
But here we are, late 2025, and still nothing. It seems to be stuck.
So we're left with this book that's deeply loved for its emotional honesty about first love and abuse, but also carries these very valid criticisms.
Which brings us to our final thought for you. When a story connects with you so deeply on an emotional level, but is also flawed in its cultural representation, How do you hold both of those truths at once? How do you separate the feeling from the flaws?
That's the real question, isn't it?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.